I want to talk to you today about mental health. I read a statistic the other day that I think it was the National Alliance for Mental Health. They said that 1 in 4 Americans in 2024 suffered from mental health. Now, a small portion of those suffered from severe mental health, psychosis, schizophrenia. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the everyday mental health, anxiety, fears that so many people are suffering from today. That's just, it's almost 50 million people. Why are so many people suffering today? I want to explore that today, and I want to talk about what's causing it and what the remedy might be. So, Benjamin Franklin wrote, "The things that hurt instruct." And he recognized that the things that hurt us give us wisdom. When we have a trial in our life, we have to come up with a solution, and that takes courage because you don't know how the solution that you're coming up with is going to work out. You don't know if it's going to fix the problem. You don't know if it's going to make it worse. So it takes a lot of courage to come up with a solution and implement it. And then you learn from the result, which gives you wisdom. The meaning of our lives comes from the process of solving the problems in our lives. And people who recognize the pain, how the pain instructs us, they see the pain for what it is, and the dread of that pain from the trials in our lives is greatly reduced. Most people don't do this. Most people spend a lot of energy avoiding their problems instead of putting forth the effort to solve them. They ignore their problems through procrastination. They deaden the anticipated pain of the problem or the pain that they're going through from their problem with substance abuse. They put valuable energy into forgetting their problems, pretending they don't exist, and somehow trying to slip out of their problems instead of suffering through them. And they don't understand that avoiding the suffering of problems is avoiding growth. Romans chapter 5, verses 3 to 5 says, "But we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope." Suffering is shown here as a process that shapes character, which can include wisdom gained through enduring hardship. This is how it works. Paul writes to glory in our sufferings. Some translations put it to rejoice in our sufferings. How are we supposed to interpret this? It's not some stoic stance, I'm going to enjoy my suffering and get through it. That's not what Paul's talking about here. He knows that the end result of the trial to a person centered on God is hope. Because suffering brings perseverance. It's a steadfastness that can only be achieved by being tested under duress. And this perseverance in turn develops character. It develops a proven and tested character, which results in hope. And that hope is centered on the knowledge that God will see us through these trials. So I've got a few thoughts on how to solve these problems. The first two are pretty easy. The third one is going to take a little longer to explain, but I think it's very worthwhile to listen to. The first thing is delay gratification. Don't eat the icing before the cake, right? Don't put it off. Just get to it. Get the hard stuff out of the way first. The second one is take responsibility for your problem. It doesn't matter who caused it, what conditions it came up on. It doesn't matter. It's your problem, and it's going to need your solution in order to fix it. The solution has to come through you, so get to it and take responsibility, no matter what the situation is. The third one is more challenging. We're going to talk a little bit about truth. You have to experience the truth of the problem, and the only way to do this is to have a good grasp of the truth of reality. Now, everyone has a view of reality. It's called a worldview, right? And your worldview is your primary tool to get through the problems in life. And only a small minority of people today work at getting their view of reality on objective truth. There's a huge problem today with people talking about their truth as though they have their own truth that differs from everyone else's. No, truth is truth, and there's only one. And if you don't adapt to it and you claim you've got a truth that nobody else has, you're living in an illusion. There is no your truth, my truth. There's only one truth. And if you use these terms, you're likely very far away from the truth. Romans 1:18 says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth." It's immoral to suppress the truth. It hurts you to suppress the truth. It doesn't do you any favors to suppress the truth. Now, this is the important point. The more your view of reality is colored by the falsehoods and illusions that you create and hang on to, the more compromised will be your ability to solve the problems you are facing. In order to make good decisions and good choices and determine correct courses of action, we have to clearly see reality. You've got to know who you are. You've got to know where you are. You've got to know where you want to go, and you need to know how to get there. And this requires an accurate map of reality. Now, I'm going to risk sounding like a boomer here, and I apologize, but I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and it was a different world back then. The world has changed a lot in the last 20 so years. There was back then a commonality among people about how they viewed reality. There were fundamentals of the human experience that were common among virtually everybody. No one was arguing about the things we argue today, about what a woman is, what a man is, what bathroom to use. Nobody was throwing out terms like Nazis and racists and bigots to label someone they disagreed with. Now, we had those terms for sure, but if you were called a bigot, it's because you exhibited bigoted behavior, not because you wanted the federal government to spend taxpayer dollars in a certain direction or because you voted for a particular candidate in a national election. To throw these terms around is a terrible view of reality, and these people are serious when they do it. When there's no evidence, and it's all you have is someone's opinion, and you call them a Nazi or a bigot or a racist, this is someone who is seriously skewed in their view of reality. They're not even looking for truth. They're disregarding it. When I was growing up, or even just 20, 25 years ago, there was no personal hatred between people who held differing opinions. We have not progressed. We have seriously regressed. And we've deconstructed our society into these fiercely independent social groups that are fighting it out on this battlefield, waving their flags of truth. So I only bring that up because I have a perspective of the way it used to be. And this is a very new trend, this strange twist on reality that so many people carry around. Now, how does this apply to mental illness? So the mental illness that is so complicated, or so common rather, today is neurosis, right? It's excessive anxiety, it's emotional distress, it's maladaptive behaviors. Think of obsessive thoughts, compulsive behaviors, chronic worry, irrational fears. These are serious conditions, and they interfere with daily functioning. They do. It's terrible. Now listen to what Carl Jung wrote. Carl Jung was one of the most influential psychiatrists in the 20th century, and he wrote the following. Listen closely. Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. Think about that. When you avoid the suffering that is legitimate in your life, you fall into a great risk of developing neurosis. That's what he wrote. And when you do that, the pain of the neurosis that you carry around is more painful than the problem and the pain that came with it that you were trying to avoid. This is not a good solution, folks. Clearly today, there are many, many people that don't have a good grasp on the truth of reality. And consequently, a quarter of the population of our country, of the US anyway, and probably in more places, suffer from mental illness because they're avoiding the truth and have a steadfast avoidance of suffering through legitimate problems in life. They are completely unprepared to address their problems because they have no grasp on the truth of reality. So how did we get here? Why are so many people unable to recognize and see the truth of reality today? I think a big part of it is the overexposure to the lives of others through social media. It reduces the commonality and increases separation between people. It erodes a focus on our own lives. It erodes our desire to look and have introspection and consider and review our own lives and the way we view the world. There's a loss of identity and purpose, and there's confusion with regards to careers and values and sexuality and beliefs. We've substituted authentic human connection with digital environments of carefully curated lives. And this establishes false benchmarks of success and happiness. It decreases attention spans and lowers self-esteem. And it weakens our connection to humanity. We're provided with overwhelming choices. There's such a lack of clarity today to viewing the world that we're almost frozen to commit to a choice or to move forward. It scatters our attention. There's so many choices. And this reduces self-reflection and deep thinking. The end result, I believe, is a loss of meaning and fulfillment in our lives. There's an emptiness and a nihilism, a hunger for authenticity and truth, I believe, is still out there. I think people are hungry for authenticity and truth, but they don't know where to go to find it because we're drowning in a sea of inauthenticity and lies. We surround ourselves with opinions that strengthen our worldview instead of validating it by looking honestly at the other side. So how do we fix this? Well, obviously you have to dedicate yourself to truth and the truth of reality. This is your map to get through life's problems. And it has to be modified from time to time, and people are terrified to do that. There's a Christian apologist I follow. His name is Frank Turek. He has a YouTube channel called Cross-Examined. And he goes to college campuses, much like Charlie Kirk did. In fact, he was one of Charlie's mentors. And he holds these events where people come up to the microphone and they ask questions. And as an apologist, he defends his faith to these questions. A lot of atheists, agnostics, skeptics will come to the microphone. And he asks this question at least once during these events, and sometimes quite a few times. He says, if Christianity were proven true, would you become a Christian? And honestly, about 9 out of 10 people just don't even think about it. They say, no. Think about that. Here's something that's proven true. Would you support it? No. Their desire to hold on to their false beliefs and illusions is more valuable than the truth itself. And this is the problem I'm pointing to. We're so busy arguing with one another that no one has the time or the motivation to consider opposing opinions. They're too busy verifying their own. It takes courage to change your map of reality. It's uncomfortable and it can be painful. So it's avoided because people don't want to go there. They don't want to change the way they see the world. I think this is one of the reasons that Charlie Kirk was so hated on the college campuses. People were angry at him because he was encroaching on their psychological territory. They were protecting their illusions. So the most important thing to avoid falling into this pit of neurosis is don't live in a closed system of thinking. It's very healthy for worldviews and opinions to change throughout life. It's extremely unhealthy for them not to. You need constant self-evaluation, deep thinking, serious self-reflection. Think of it as kind of an ongoing self-psychotherapy. Do you allow your viewpoints to be personally challenged? The only way to validate the way you see the world, the truth of how you view reality, is to expose it to criticism and allow it to be challenged by other map makers. You must lay it out. You must lay out your reality to public inspection so that it can be verified or changed. It also means a commitment to total honesty, a total commitment to honesty. We must be able to accurately reflect our view of reality in the words that we communicate to others. If we can't honestly and accurately explain our view to someone, if you just walk away from the conversation, you need to seriously reflect on your view of reality. If you can't accurately defend your views, you're probably just avoiding the truth. This is not a healthy way to go. So those are the points I wanted to make today. Tell me what you think. Am I off base? Do you think I'm right? Do you have any other ideas? I'd love to hear them. This is a fairly new channel. I'm about 2 months into this. If you like the video, please give it a like. Subscribe if you're so inclined. I'd really appreciate it. It does help the channel. So that's what I have today. God bless you, and I hope to see you again soon.